I was giving my dog a bath and all of that. Okay, you're alive.
Okay, yeah, so let's get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Khushbu Nathalia, and you're watching Conceptual Legal. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Suresh Ramdas. Has 16 plus years of corporate experience in custom support and DEI, along with being a motivational speaker, global facilitator, and a LGBTQ plus spokesperson for inclusion in the corporate space. A certified diversity professional and an NLP practitioner, he co facilitates a leadership program called Leading with Pride LWP. He is also a member of Rainbow Toastmaster Club, which is the world's first LGBTQIA and Allies Virtual Club, the winner of Mr. Gay India 2019, and he has been featured in the Outstanding 100 LGBT plus Future Leaders list for 2 consecutive years, that is 2019 and 2020, and was ranked 25th in the 2020 list. With the passion of giving back to the community, he is working for trans inclusion in the corporate space, spread awareness about queer issues, mental health issues in the LGBTQ community, HIV and drug abuse, so on and so forth. He is spreading awareness with other corporations to be trans inclusive in their workplace. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Khushbu, for that wonderful introduction. And first and foremost, happy Pride Month to everybody.
Same to you. A very, very happy Pride Month to you. Uh, so, without wasting much of time, let's just quickly get started and let's try to understand few basic informations probably for the community. And let's start with the first thing, that is the abbreviation which is being used. I remember we started listening to LGBT, and then came LGBTQ, then further I
Mhm.
and A were also added. So, what exactly led to the addition of these alphabets in the abbreviation? Like, what is the thought process and what these alphabets actually stand for?
All right. So first, let me walk you through what these alphabets are all about. So L stands for lesbian, G stands for gay, B stands for bisexual, T stands for transgender. All right. So that was the initial first. And Q stands for queer or questioning. I stands for intersex. A stands for allies and also asexual people. And then plus includes everybody else under the umbrella. And also, we are wanting to talk about the HIV affected or people living with HIV to also be part of this community and part of this whole, umbrella. So why did it all start with LGBT? So first, let's take a step back. Before it was not LGBT, it was GLBT, right? So, and then we went
Okay.
on with LGBT, and now we're also adding a lot of other alphabets. Now, the reason for adding more alphabets is because of the visibility and the awareness that this community really needs to start having. Now, initially we had lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community, being there in the front. There were, a lot of people who were coming out visibly, vocally having these conversations. Now, then we also said, or then also a lot of people from the community started understanding that, hey, we are not there in these boxes. We don't identify ourselves as
Right.
LGBT, but then we start identifying ourselves as queer, or we are in the questioning phase.
Okay.
Firstly, the environment or the society by default have put us in boxes, right? We are supposed to be straight, and if you're not straight, you're homosexual. Now, in homosexuality, there's a lot more understanding on that. And then while you are really not sure who you are, right? So they wanted that also to be a part of it as queer or questioning. And some people, while they're questioning themselves, they really don't fit into any of these boxes. Some people think, you know what, I really don't want to call myself lesbian or gay or bisexual or even trans. I
Right.
think I would call myself as queer. So that came into picture. And now, off lately, recently, there has been a lot of conversations around the intersex community. Now, a lot of visibility was not really there for the intersex community. There were a lot of conversations which were happening at the back end. Now we're bringing them
Right.
on board. We're bringing them forward to the regular conversations like how the lesbians and gays and bisexuals and the trans people are having. So we brought in the intersex community as well. Now, A is also
Okay.
for asexual, right? So that is also a community which is, bringing. There's a lot of visibility happening. There are a lot of people coming out as asexuals, but also I want to say that it is also for our allies because we want allyship. We want people from the heteronormative or the heterosexual community to come forward and be allies for the LGBTQ plus community, right? So we are talking
Okay.
about allies as well in that. So that is short and I wouldn't say short, but longer version, but a very crisper version of what the community is all about. And there is a lot more to it.
Right. Moving on. So you told us about what this LGBTQ and how these abbreviations are used. And as we started, we greeted each other with Happy Pride Month. So what is this Pride Month all about? How did it started? And what exactly do you mean by this month? What is this celebration all about?
So Pride Month, if you look at history, if you go back in time, so it started in United States of America, specifically on
Okay.
June 28th. So this started as a riot which happened in one of the gay bars then in New York called the Stonewall. And that's where the whole
Okay.
conversation really started off, where there were riots, there were people being thrown out for no reasons, and that started the gay movement in the United States of America. Now,
Hmm.
and then later on it became a gay pride. It took a whole conversation of the movement really started off with calling out people who are out and loud proud gay people, bisexuals, trans, and lesbians as well. So all of them started coming out and celebrating and telling that we do exist. We are not somebody who needs to be negated by the society. We want to be accepted, we want to be included. Now, that was
Right.
the revolutionary movement or a movement that started in the United States, and then it really translated into global. So that's why June is called the Global Pride Month, but its roots are very much in the United States of America. Now, if you look at it from a Pride Month perspective in India, I'm for sure a lot of people are going to be asking that question. It's Global Pride Month. It's in US. Then why do we
Right.
have to celebrate? Now, the reason being is that we also have people from the community who are, wanting to celebrate, wanting to come out, and wanting to really be there. And prior to
Right.
September 6, 2018, before the Section 377 judgment came out, now they wanted
Right.
a reason to go ahead and celebrate and, be out there and, just say that, hey, we do exist as well. Because that was how the revolution really started in the US. Now, with that happening in June, now I would say we have our own India, Pride Month, which is in September, though it didn't start off as a revolution, but I think it still is a big moment to really commemorate and really take that conversation forward, which is in September. Right. So September can
Right.
be called India's Pride Month as well, where, the Supreme Court of India removed Section 377. The judgment was really read, and you all know what the judgment was all about. So based on that, I would say that was India's, Independence Day for the LGBTQ plus community people, right? Because that's wherein we were no
Right.
longer called criminals as per the law, right? So I think it is a very celebratory moment for us as well. So I would say I'm asking a lot of people to really start, working on bringing September as India's Pride Month, along with, the Global Pride Month, which happens in June.
Right. Okay. A bit of information for the participants here. Since it's an interacting section, so we are not having the normal
Right.
introduction by the speaker. So we are open to questions, and anyone who wishes to ask anything may
Yes.
please place their questions in the comment section, and we're gonna take those questions one by one. So moving ahead with that, you just now talked about Section 377 of IPC. That's the Navteet Singh Johar judgment, which is being celebrated, and you're talking about the
Yes.
India's Pride Month. What do you think that that judgment has done for the community? How far has we come after that judgment, which was celebrated at a global level by all the members, not only in the community but even the other sections of the society? So, how has that judgment changed the perspective?
Now, see, there are many things. First and foremost, I think simply calling it out, saying, even Indu Malhotra, one of the judges who was part of
Right.
the four judge
Quorum.
panel,
Right.
she also went ahead and apologized to the entire LGBTQ plus community, saying that we should have done this longer, but we have not done it. So here we apologize
Right.
to the entire community and their family, saying that this has been really tough on them. Now, those kind of statements, remarks, when it is read by people from the community, it really talks a lot, right? It really says a lot about the community. And I think that brings some form of visibility. Now, since September 6th to 2018, what has really happened in India is that no longer are we criminals as individuals from the community. And also at the same time, we can be out and loud and proud for whoever we are, right?
Right.
Now, from an LGBTQ perspective, yes, we have the first rights of being not a criminal, but at the same time, they have mentioned in the judgment that there has to be a lot of sensitization, there has to be a lot of awareness in every aspect, be it in government offices, be it in other places as well. So I think it really laid down the foundation for the years to come as to what is it that we need to do to make sure that the community people feel a lot more inclusive. Now it's been 2018, so it is September yet, but say 2.5 years. In these 2.5 years, I think there has been some form of visibility, some sort of acceptance in various factors. Now, be it in corporates. Now, corporate people have really stepped forward and come forward, and they are acknowledging it, and they are saying that we will work towards the LGBTQ plus community, because before they were hiding behind Section 377. Not all the corporates, but most of the corporates were hiding behind Section 377, saying that we cannot really do that. But there were many other organizations like myself, including my organization and other companies as well, where they did so much of work for the community even before Section 377 was removed. So the visibility factor from a corporate perspective has really gone in. And then we also have a lot of these conversations happening in social media, in media houses, be it digital or print,
Right.
like newspapers, magazines, all have been starting to write articles around it and, throw some light about the community. Though there are issues about the way they have both and brought in forward, but I think the point is that they have started writing and we need to bring more awareness and sensitization on how they are supposed to represent us. So you be it in
Right.
movies as well. Now we have so many web series coming up and really talking about these issues, and we have serials and
Right.
conversations happening, and also the judgment for the transgender community as well, wherein we have recognized
Right.
them as part of the country, as citizens of this country, and then trying to get
As
an
the
act
third
for them, which is
citizens.
still work in progress. It's not a good act, but
Right.
yes, but I think the conversation has started, and expecting them to be part of the society, being part of government offices and educational, and provide them education, is all has started, right? So I think there has been the initial
Right.
work being done, in the sense, like, with the removal of Section 377. Now the conversation has started, is where I would go forward with. We have a long way to go,
Right. Very rightly.
but yeah, I think we're taking baby steps in being more inclusive and progressive.
Yes, very rightly said by you and pointed out by you about the transgender, that it is being recognized as the third gender, which is true. And recently, we have even seen that the High Court has given them 1% reservation also. And probably I saw that in your status itself
Yes,
a day or two back when I was just scrolling down.
yes.
You put that as the status,
Yesterday.
right? Yeah, yesterday itself, of course. So they have been given
Yeah.
1% reservation in the employment also, right? So yes, the judiciary is, I
Yes,
think,
but this
doing
is
a lot.
specific to Karnataka.
This is specific to
Yeah,
Karnataka.
this is
Yes,
only in
exactly, the High
Karnataka.
Court.
Yeah, Karnataka.
Right,
Where,
right.
yeah.
And we have a special bill also enacted for the trans last year after the judgment came over when the issue was talking about. So there have been a lot of things which are being done for the trans people, particularly by the judiciary, right? Right. Okay.
Yes, that is
Moving on.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on. We often hear about being said that homosexuality or homosexuals is something which is of Western origin, yeah, foreign origin. So, how true is that according to you?
It is 1000% not true.
Right, with that devil
Homosexuality
smile
is
of
not a
yours,
Western
I can
thing.
understand.
So, homosexuality is there everywhere. It is
Right,
there in animal kingdom by itself. Look at the various other animals. We are also animals in that form, right? But
right,
homosexuality is very much there. It has been celebrated and it has been accepted prior to Britishers coming in, right? If you
yes,
have to go
yes,
back to our history, I would just tell people, go back to Khajuraho Temple and have a look at what is exactly happening there. Look at the scriptures, look at the monuments being erected out there. So
yes,
that talked about, and we, I would say that yes, we are the land of Kama Sutra. We've kind of told people how to have great sex, right? Irrespective of the fact how we do it or not, but then we have told people that, which really talks about the fact that yes, we were a very liberal, a very fast forward thinking, in those aspects we were very well ahead in times. But I think where the issue really came in was the Western influence. Yes, homosexuality was called out as a wrong thing was by the Western people. So it was not something that was Western concept which he brought into India and then homosexuality really came in. No, you can go back in some of a religious context as well. Specifically talking about the Hindu mythology as well, where we have celebrated people, in various
right,
forms. We have Ardhanarishwar, right, where we have Shiva and Parvati,
right,
being together, half man, half woman. Then we also have in Mahabharata, where you have, Arjuna going ahead and, dragging, wearing women's clothes just to be sure that they don't get recognized, right? So
right,
a lot of elements have been there. Then Kali also coming down. You have Vishnu taking the avatar of Mohini, right? So with all of that coming in, so where was the homosexuality or the Western culture coming in? It was very much there in India. It was only after the Britishers that they went ahead and called it out. So even if you go back again in
yes,
history, the Britishers took a lot of time, energy, and resources to eradicate the transgender community at that point in time, which was the Hijra community, right?
right,
That the Hijra community has been there for centuries, so then they wanted to eradicate them all. And then they brought in this section 377 because of the fact is that they just believe that anything and everything should happen between a man and a woman, right? And everything else is considered illegal or unnatural. So they brought in the Western concept of saying that heterosexuality and homosexuality cannot exist.
right.
So, yes, if you have to say that, was it a Western concept? Yes, it is a Western concept of discriminating homosexuals, not a Western concept of bringing homosexuality into India.
Right. And as you were just pointing out about few examples, about the scriptures and all. So I would like to add few points here that it's actually very true that it was after the Britishers era which came into picture that the
All right, I'm not sure if you
discrimination
can
or
still
the
hear me, Kushbu.
yeah, I can. Are you able to hear me? I think there's some network issues by Sir's end. So your mic is mute actually. Yeah, it's unmute now.
Kushbu, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. May I continue? Yeah, may I continue? I think it's a yes from your side. So, okay. As rightly quoted by you, that it was after the Britishers era that this when IPC was drafted, and we have this particular section to criminalize basically the act. And prior to that, there has been n number of instances in the mythology itself. Even during the Mughal era, we have witnessed a lot of instances of homosexuality, specifically in the slavery system itself, right? But
Mm-hmm.
today we see, but today or after the enactment of IPC, the scene or the scenario, it got very different. People started living in a phobia. They were not that willing, or they were not having that much of courage to come out and open and show their identity. Moreover, most of the time they do not even understand about their sexuality. It becomes difficult for them to actually understand what's going within. So what do you have to tell to them, like what exactly is this sexual preferences or sexual orientation, sexuality? What are these terms all about? How are they different from each other? And how do you actually understand about the so-called sexuality?
All right, so to again take a step back. uh, Now,
Yes.
sexuality again, if you have to take a step back, so prior to now, in the olden days, they really didn't have something to be defined. They accepted everybody for who they were, right? So, right from the time that the child is born to however the child wants to grow up and, be the environment that really comes in, the place that they are in, everything kind of really goes in the right direction. And it was never a binary format. Binary in the sense like, there is no black and white. There are always just shades of gray. So even the same with sexuality as well, that kind of really is a spectrum. It was never that you can either be 100% man or 100% woman, or you're 100% manly or you're 100% feminine. So you do have your entire spectrum, and people come in varied spectrums, right? So it
Right.
is just the acceptance or acknowledgement or understanding that when people can never be the same. When people are never the same, you can't expect everybody to behave the same way. So I think
Same.
that's where the whole understanding of identity, sexuality, sexual orientation. Now, if I have to say this, only when you have, um, an inclination or a likingness towards the opposite sex, you are heterosexual, while same sex is, a homosexual. But that is also in the fact that you do have a romantic inclination and a physical inclination as well, right? If you're physically attracted to the same sex, yes, but also you do have emotional attachments, right? That doesn't mean that you're a homosexual moment you have, that emotional bond with the same-sex person, like, girls being friends with their best friends. That doesn't mean that they're homosexual. right? But then
Right.
they are very much physically attracted to an opposite sex, and they still love having an emotional bonding with the same sex, which is girlfriends, and then their partner as the opposite sex. Now, it is a journey for everybody to really go through who they really are. Now, because the world by large, when laws came into picture, when a lot of people with power position went with a specific mindset that that is how they want to drive the nation or the country or a state or a city or anything. Now they decided how everybody should be. But again,
Right.
end of the day, it is an individual's perspective, and it is how they want to really be and put themselves forward in front of everybody else. Now, when majority of them turned out to be straight, while there is always going to be the minority community or the minority group which do not fit into those boxes, and then they become outcasts, right? So I think that's wherein the
Right.
whole conversation and the whole understanding needs to go there. Not, I always tell this to people, when majority of the human beings have 10 fingers and they are not same. I'm saying
Right.
majorities because there are a lot of people, who are people with disability who do
Who
not
have
have
issues? Yes.
fingers, or for whatever reason they don't have the fingers. So I want to include them as well. But if five fingers in a hand are not the same, then how can you expect people to be the same? Right. So I
Exactly.
think with that
Right.
understanding, you really need to start, fitting in people and talking to them, saying that, we respect you as an individual, we accept you as an individual, and
Right.
for whoever you are, and however you want to present yourself, or however, the inclination that you have physically, emotionally, we totally accept it for whoever you are. I think that's where we really need to start getting. But I think with the concept or the fact of what Britishers came in with, of saying that, it is only, an union between man and a woman is considered and acceptable while everything else is not. I think that itself is flawed, right?
Right.
So, but we have been with that flawed thought process for close to 200 years because they ruled us for 200 years, right? If you have to look at it in that aspect, they have made us feel bad about who we are as an individual, as a country, as a person, be it with our Indian culture, right? So now, if you look at it, a lot of them are in the mode of, wanting to be those people pleasers of the people abroad. You know, for simple example, it could be for a fact that if you speak well, if you dress up well, then you are considered much better in the society, right? If you
Right.
are in raggedy clothes, or if you wear Indian attire, it is only for a specific reason and not as something that you want to promote or be proud of. We as Indians are made to feel bad about our Indianness in every aspect, right? Be it with our food, be it with the languages, be it with our, heritage, with our culture. And obviously, this also came into picture about the fact is about your identity, about your sexual orientation, right? All of that also was brought in and been made ridiculed and made fun of, right? So I think that has gone down generations of generations, and it takes a lot more generations to unpack and unlearn whatever we have been forcefully taught. There have been good things, no doubt, but having said that, majority of the times it has been, not the very good thing. We don't accept ourselves for who we are. We always try to fit in somewhere else, right? So we always are looking at
Right.
how can we make ourselves feel better and make ourselves better, right? So I think that's where the whole concept or the whole ideology about this whole thing came into picture. And, we need to look back in our past as well. Even now, when you look at it,
True.
when people who speak their mother tongue, which you need to be very proud of, right? But they've been made ridiculed. Why? Because they do not know English. Now, if I,
That's
as
true.
a South Indian, a Tamil boy, and if I speak Tamil in my, mother tongue anywhere and everywhere, I'm being made fun of because of the fact is my English is not good, right? If my English has a mother tongue influence, they say that, right? You have a mother tongue influence in your English. So sorry, we are not accepting you for whoever you are. So I think that whole process of unpacking and unlearning, and we need to accept ourselves for who we are. We need to be proud of who we are as well, which is not really there and happening. So we need to unpack that and unlearn that aspect. Along with that comes in with the unlearning of the binary system as well. It's not zeros and ones in human beings also, right? It is a spectrum. So that's where we kind of really are at.
Right, true. And with that, we have a question in the chat box, which I can see is pretty common, wherein they want to know that how
Mhm.
exactly do you think that the society is ready to accept this change and to accept the inclusion for the community?
I think by large, the society is again driven by majority, right? So that's like it or not, whether we like it or not, it always goes by the majoritarian process or the majoritarian thought process.
Right,
Now, so the majority of the people right now currently think that LGBT people should not exist, right? And that's where there's a lot of work happening in trying to eradicate this, remove them in the form of either killing, in the form of conversion therapy, or they get them married off, or do whatever that is required so that they don't say that this person is a homosexual or from the LGBTQ plus community. Now, we as society need to start having these conversations and telling them that, yes, there are people from the community who exist and they're very much there. So, how is it that we can really go about educating? So, I think that educating drive has to really be there to, take it in schools, in colleges, in workplaces, in government offices, and, especially the lawmakers as well should be more educated about, what it's a spectrum. They need to get an understanding of what the LGBT community is all about. So when that starts off, then you can see the conversations really taking differently. And when majority of the people come into the phase, then acceptance comes in automatically. Now, if I have to give you a simple example, now decades back, decades and decades back, women were never allowed to work, but that change happened, right? Though it is still an issue right now, right? But even women were not allowed to even go to school, right? But that has really changed. Why? Because there have been people who have constantly going ahead and talking about it and, putting the conversation out there. And then there have been supporters for those women as well by the men who are on majority saying that no, these women need to be educated and they have the right to go and start working in other places as well. Now, when that,
right,
which started off as a minority group, as supporting it, now there is a majority of the group coming and saying that, hey, what, this is the norm. Now we are also in that phase right now for the acceptance of the LGBTQ plus community. Now with the
right,
law getting over, now it has, given us the opportunity to take that conversation forward, right? And not under the table. Before it was under the table, now it is on the table and it has
right,
to be discussed. So
right.
this is going to take years, maybe even decades also for it to become a norm or acceptance in that form. But I'm sure that I'm very optimistic that the current generation also, who has got so much of access to knowledge and information, and they are connected across the world. So the rate at which the change is going to happen is going to be much faster than the previous generations and all of that.
Right. Well, I would request, if you don't mind, if you can share your own personal experience with the, viewers.
All right. So my journey hasn't been a very rosy journey, I would say. But my starting was very good because I was filled with love and I was raised in a family where there was a lot of love, there was a lot of laughter, and there was a lot of joy. I think things started really changing when I started going to school, when I
Okay.
was, thinking that as an individual, as a person who I am, I think that is absolutely fine. But I think the school, the kids in school, and this is, the environment out there really I said, no, Suresh, I think you don't fit into the norm of what a boy should be and how, a girl should be in that fact. So I was very feminine in my behavior, in my mannerisms, all of that. So I
Right.
was always been called names. I was, bullied, and I was harassed a lot of times in school, which was not a great time, and it was not something that I'm very proud of. But also now, when I look back, it has a different meaning. But at that point in time, a small kid really didn't have to go through. And to add to it, I was dark skinned as well. I was brown, so I got another extra layer of bullying which came in as I was feminine and I was dark, and this is who Suresh is. So name calling became a usual thing, which was not easy to fight off. I was very upset. I was disappointed. I was angry. I was frustrated also as to how do I go about, facing this whole situation. Somehow, I think I would say that there is something that happened during my childhood, which I will talk about a little later, which kind of made me realize that no, you need to really fight it out. You really need to fight your battles, and no matter what happens, you're going to keep going forward. And that's how it really started. But even in that journey in my school, also, I realized this one thing, that I was different in the sense like I was not like the regular boys and girls at that point in time. I was special. I kind of realized that I was
Right.
different, but I kind of kept calling and saying that I was special. So that journey, and there was lack of understanding because there was no internet there at that time. So I really didn't know where to go look for, what information to go look for, and all of that. So I continued with whatever I had in my head, and I was not very happy with it. But I said, you know what, this is life. You need to go on. And I think the time came really was when I was in college. Because that time when I went to college, I was having the opportunity to get access to internet, and that's where I really knew about myself. I was like, oh my god, okay. I was then able to give a name to it. Okay, you are a gay person. You are a homosexual. I didn't know that until then. So it was kind of a realization for me then, and then from there on, I started figuring out myself. I started getting to know myself a little more better, be it with spending a lot of time on internet at that point in time, which was very expensive. But still, I went and continued because I wanted to know myself. And I think that's what one of the days when I was going back is when I realized that saying that out loud to yourself makes a lot of difference. Because one of those days, I just while going back to my hostel room, I said, Suresh, now you should know by now that you are gay. And then I said, yes, I am gay. I think coming out to myself was a big thing. I think it was very emotional in its own ways, but also feeling very nice. I know straight people really don't have to do that because, again, because it's a norm, it's a normality, right? Where it is okay and it's accepted and it's understood and taken care that you are straight. But for somebody who is not from the heterosexual community, for me, I think it was a moment, and I was very happy with it. And I went back, and I was being very optimistic and very proud of myself. And I think that's when the journey also really went on and went by. Then I came out to a few of my friends, and some didn't really go well. But one of my best friends, whom I'm still friends with, I came out to, and he was very supportive for me for that time. So I think my journey really started with a lot of positivity from friends, and then from supporters as well. But then I didn't keep it saying that I didn't want to kind of talk about it as a loud factor, because I was very concerned as to, is it going to affect me, my career, my promotion, my work, anything and
Right.
everything. So I tried to keep it in the closet. I was very much in the closet. That also continued when I started working as well. I said I don't want to talk about it, because of which I'm not going to go ahead and talk about my sexuality sexuality or my sexual orientation to everybody. All right. Sorry about that. My internet just went a little crappy. Can you hear me,
Never
Khushbu?
mind, never. Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Yes, please continue. I think there's some network issue from his side, so just wait for a moment. He's gonna join back. And by that time, till the time he joined back, I would like to take few questions and which I can see in the chat box. And the very common question which I have in my hand is, have you felt any change in Indian mind towards the acceptance of the of LGBT community so far? Well, for that question, I would like to tell the participants or the viewers that it's not about have you seen any change. It's about have we witnessed any change in the society, moreover within our own self? Because it is very easy to ask, what is happening? Have you seen something like that? How's the society behaving? The society need to be more inclusive, etc., etc., etc. But the major issue is, we as individuals, are we ready to accept that change? Because still most of us, many whether it's the younger generation or the one in their middle ages or the old age, everyone, they have their own perspective, and they are not actually willing to accept it. And it is not only that the society which need to change, it is that we as individuals need to change so that we can see a change in the society itself. So that's what I think the answer for that particular query is. Moving ahead with the next query, what do you think in the view of Indian judiciary in accepting LGBTQ community? Do you think are they heading in right direction? Well, I think Suresh already pointed out about the role of judiciary in promoting the rights of LGBTQ community. And even when we read newspaper, we see that the judiciary has played a very important role in the upliftment of the community, whether it was the Navteej Singh Johar judgment, which decriminalized the old age 377 section of the IPC, or it was the recent judgment wherein the Karnataka High Court granted 1% reservation for the trans people. Or recently, we have seen a lot of petitions being filed in the court talking about the marriage equality. Apart from that, we have also seen the right to the registration of the marriage, a lot of matrimonial things happening for the right of the community and everything. It is and we've seen these judgments being pending. The court is doing its role. The court is trying to come out with judgments, to come out with actually establishing the right of equality in in the society, which we have seen is one of the fundamental right of our Indian constitution. But I would like to place a question to you, and I would like to see some answers in the comment section. How far or how true is that right to equality being practiced in India? What do you think? Is this fundamental right actually applicable? Is it actually being functioning at the root level, or we still see a lot of discrimination being happening in the society for the minority sections? What are your views? If anyone wishes to answer, they may please put their answers in the comment section below. And by the time we'll move on with some other queries in the comment section. Then there is one more which I can see which says, uh, which talks about, do you recommend any book, novel which one should read to develop the understanding about history and present scenario of LGBTQ community? Well, there are n number of books which talks about the history of LGBTQ community, not only in India but in abroad also. Okay, we have you back with us. All
Thank you.
right.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No, no,
Yeah.
it's okay. I understand the network issues, the virtual world have its own pro and cons. So, okay. So, I was taking up this question and now I'm going to put it to you. Do you
Okay.
recommend any book or novel which one should read to develop the understanding about history and present scenario of the community?
Well, there are many books. I would say, out India, I would say I'm just going to be looking at some of these books here because I do have them out. And then you have something for corporate India as well, which is called Queristan by Parmesh Tahani. And then you have quite a lot of books by Devdutt Patnaik also to give you an
Devdutt
understanding
Patnaik.
of the queer community with regarding to mythology, right? So I think that is
Right.
something y'all can really take forward. And uh, yeah, I mean, even by Saurabh Kripal also, Sex and the Supreme Court. I think that's also another book that is really worthwhile reading. We do have an out, judge in Court of India as well, right? Saurabh Nagpal. So you can read his book as well. I think there are many, but these are few of the things which I have on my rack as well, and there are many more. But I think do the search and finder. I think every book is different in its own ways because it is, again, some of them, it's a very personal journey, and journeys are different for different people, but you can always get some inspiration and see what is it that you can really get an essence out of the community.
Yeah, there are a few big books which I also remember, such as The Querying,
Hmm.
right? And then we have this Shikhandi by
Yeah,
Ruth,
I think, yeah. I mean, I think
by
Devdutt
Devdutt
Patnaik is
Patnaik.
also
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Devdutt
yeah.
Patnaik
So
has a
Devdutt
lot of
Patnaik
them.
has
So
a
yeah,
lot of, yeah, he has written a lot of books on queer India or about the homosexuality, and
right.
he has amazing work on it. And we have a lot of web series also these days, which talks
Yes.
about, yeah. Why don't you name few for the audience?
Made in Heaven, and then I think Four Shots, Please. Then I think recently there was His Story, I think in Act Balaji. I think Act Balaji is kind of becoming a lot more forward thinking. There was also another story about a series about a lesbian mother as well, or a lesbian person. I'm not sure what the name is, but there are many OTT series just to LGBTQ plus Indian series. You do get a lot of them. But these are
Right.
something that I have gone through, and movies you'll already know.
Yeah, and when you
So,
talk about movies, you have Fire, which actually created fire in India when it was released. There were so many
yes,
backlashes, and so many things happened with that movie.
right.
And it's I think it's one of the masterpiece which we have seen, which talks about not only the homosexuality, but it also talks about the problems faced and how exactly do you move in the society. So even that is the movie, if anyone wishes to, they may have a look at the same.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, like I said, there are many more movies, be it with English movies as well, which really talks a lot about from a real life perspective and, the life of how a gay person or a trans person or a bisexual person or a lesbian person really has to go through, even queer people. Now there are a lot of movies coming out, and yeah, please take note, watch them and get an understanding. It may not be the same for everybody, but I think you all will get an sense of what the community is all about.
Right. I have this question. Please share your opinion about the remarks given by Justice Anand Venkatesh from Madras High Court. How optimistic it is, and will other state high court also follow the judgment? What do you think about it?
Well, see, for me, I think what Justice Anand has mentioned is something very, very unique and liberating, because he was also the person who said that I need to go back and understand this community, right? So there is that sense of understanding before giving a judgment about a specific community or a group of people, right? So that's what we really want. We want humanity. We want that human aspect of them when you're trying to do things for the humans, right? So
Right,
for me, the concept is why a law is there. The laws are there to help the people. So it should be, more or less helping the people and not being a barricade sort of thing for them. It should not be a barrier. It should kind of enable them and make them better. So I think what
right,
Justice Anand also went ahead and did was he took an understanding of what this community is all about, and then saying that, hey, you know what, we should stop this because this is not the right thing. Conversion therapy is not a right thing. So calling it out and putting a ban to it, and then saying why he banning it. Because he's had conversations with people who've gone through this, understanding what is the mental, state of that
yeah,
person's mind after going through all of this. Is it really worth it?
right,
So when you take an understanding of all of these things, we need to go back and assess and say, hey, what are the right things to do? And as a judge, he's done the right thing. So can you
right,
expect other judges to be like this? I don't know, because people are different, right? People perceive things differently. But
right,
can we influence their perception or influence their thinking? Yes, is by sensitizing, is by bringing them more conversations or more stories around the community people so that they are becoming more aware. So that it is just not that they think that, now because there is nobody, or that the LGBTQ people are just a minority, doesn't mean that we shouldn't really do things for them, is a really wrong concept. Now when you come out of that concept and say, hey, well, even if it's for one person, can we make that person's life worth it? That is where the idea should really go in. And with that person's life getting better, it can indirectly impact millions of other people's lives as well, right? So I
right.
think
That's true.
we need more justice, Anands, but I think we want people in their own way to start being inclusive and understanding of the community and everybody else as well.
Right. When your net just went away, and you were talking about your experience, you were sharing your experience, and you talked about the lack of awareness, the lack of knowledge, right? We have, or anybody have. So, what exactly do you think are the major hardships or the struggle or the problem faced by the people, and how can we overcome that?
Um, See, overcoming anything is not easy. I think it's a mammoth task, especially
Right,
things like this, which a LGBT community faces, because um, lack of understanding of the community itself is the first process of
right.
taking the next step forward. Now, be it as parents, be it as friends of LGBTQ plus community, I think the understanding has to be really there. uh, we are so driven with the fact that what will other people say,
Right.
right? In India, it is always like, शर्मा जी का
लोग
बेटा
क्या
कर रहा है तो
कहेंगे?
तुम लोग क्या कहेंगे types, वो हमारे पड़ोसी लोग क्या बोलेंगे types, so because we have that mindset कि पड़ोसी क्या
That mindset.
बोलेंगे, so we will have to go in that aspect, but not think about what is our kid going through. Can we
Exactly.
be there for a kid, and can we, because they are our flesh and blood and they are our everything. Now if you're very much bothered about पड़ोसी क्या बोलेंगे, तो I think you just have to go with whatever they say, and then you're living not your life, but you're living their life.
Exactly.
Correct. So if you're going with all
Exactly.
padosis kya bolenge karke, then you're not living your life, right? So I think we need to take a step back and really assess who is it that we're really wanting to be doing the right things and saying the right things. If it's our kid, then we need betterment of our kid. We need to make sure that they shine, they get the best version of themselves. And what is it that we can
Right.
do as parents or as family members to enable that? So for me, I think that's where the whole conversation starts. And when things happen at home, invariably it starts happening outside, right? I think you can see that in the basic examples, like also, we need to be more understanding, more empathetic, more forgiving. If that happens at home, then you can invariably see that happening outside as well by large. But if it's not happening at home, then it doesn't happen by large outside. And then you kind of have to learn it the hard way. So I think a lot of conversations have to start at home. And for it to start having at home, we need to bring that conversation out there, visible conversation, representative conversations out there. And I think it is not just one person's work or one team or one community's work. It is a group effort. If a
Yes.
lot of people in various sectors, like in law, if you all go ahead and start talking about this in your places, in your classes, in your schools, wherever you all go, you'll say we need to be inclusive. Yes, because we do have certain laws, but then take off the law and then they're just human beings and we need to do the right thing for the people. Now, can you all do that? Can you all sensitize law people out there, because they are the ones who are the change makers and they are the ones who are giving advices to all the people in power as well, right? So can we start influencing them, right? So you all, yeah, I think it's a very combined effort and long way to go, but I'm very optimistic that it will happen for the better.
Yes, and one obviously need to have that optimist and a positive approach towards life, because we know the society is ever changing, and to keep with the pace of the changing needs of the society, we or the law or the implements, everything need to change so that they can
Right,
actually meet the end of justice, or they can do justice in the society, and justice can
right,
prevail in the society. And that's what
yes,
law all about, that we need to be keep on changing with the changing pace of the society so that we can meet the end of justice. And with
right.
that note, it was amazing having you with us. I know
Thank
you
you.
have one more session lined up today after this. So I'm gonna I'm gonna wrap up on time, and I'm not gonna take much of the time. It was really indeed a great pleasure to have you, and I look up
Thank you
to
so
many
much.
more collaborations with you.
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much for doing this. And I think, it really means a lot. So thank you so much from the community as well to you and the folks who are watching. I think now the onus is on y'all as well. With this information, with this, knowledge that you'll have got, what is it that you're going to do? And how many more people are you going to become more aware? Make them more aware about the community. I think, yeah, the
Right.
onus lies on y'all. So all the very best. And y'all have by
Awareness
default become an ally for the community now.
Awareness and knowledge, I think, are the two major pillars to build the society, to build the community, to build the
Right.
mindset of people. And for that, I would request you to please say a few concluding words to create a bit of awareness, which you, as a message, not only to the community, but to everybody. Like anything as a message you want to quote.
I would say to the people in the community, it is just one life that you have and make it worth it. I know there's going to be struggles, but life is not, interesting if there are no ups and downs. Right now,
Yes.
I can talk about it, from sitting from a place of privilege and perspective, but for a lot of people, it is tough, right? So hang in there and find somebody who can support you, be it in the form of friend, family, or even a counselor or a mental health professional. Reach out so that you can get a better understanding and be comforted. Now, for the people who are allies, who are listening, and who are not part of the community, please be empathetic. Please be understanding where they're coming from. Get to learn a little more. Do your
Right.
homework as well to know a little bit about the community. And last but not the least, stand up. If you see something homophobic happening in and around your place, say no, or say stop, because it is not the right thing. So, with that, I would just say these are the few parting words that I have for the viewers and people from the community.
Thank you so much. And with that note, we would like to wrap up today's session. And I'll meet you again on Friday with our next session, that is on 25th. And the session will talk about the court craft, the professional
Mhm.
ethics, and advocacy. And we will have Sri Ved Prakash Sharma, co-chairman, Bar Council of India, gracing the occasion. Thank you so much. See you and have a good day.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care. Stay safe. Bye bye.
Bye.